Hey folks, this is Keough, and I'm going to take you through what is going to end up being 2 days worth of stuff. I'm going to first talk a little bit about some squatting that I did, and this was done yesterday, and then I'm going to talk about this morning's deadlifting session. And so for the squatting, I did low box squats. I set the box a little bit lower than I usually use, something like an inch to 2 inches below parallel is what it ended up being. And I used reverse bands, and my focus on this day was to do escalating triples, working up to not necessarily a triple max, but something that was a difficult set while still being able to maintain good technique. And so, really, my focus on this particular session was just trying to stay upright, trying to keep myself from shrugging. You can see that I'm still shrugging my shoulders very slightly and throwing my elbows up on that first set with 225, and it's something that I worked on and got better at with over the course of this session. I'm not throwing myself forward. I'm not trying to let my torso change angles coming out of the hole, and I'm really just trying to load my hip flexors as much as possible. I'm trying to abduct as much as possible, and I'm trying to hold that abduction. I tend to lose it. I tend to relax the muscles around the hips towards bottom when the weight starts getting heavy, simply because it's too taxing for those muscles for me to hold that position. And so that's really what I'm trying to train down to on this session. I ended up getting up to 365 for a set of three, which is even for a beltless box squat with this setup. It's um, a pretty uninspiring number for me. Um, but uh, but for the purpose of the day, which was to maintain technique and to not allow myself to break technique in favor of getting bigger weights, I was pretty happy overall with how the session went. After this, I took I want to say 30 pounds off and did two sets of three with 335. Again, focusing on just being very strict with my form. My hips were pretty fatigued by the end of this. After these, I didn't film them, but I did. I believe it was five triples with 225 with 90-second rest intervals. Again, just focusing on producing as much force as possible coming out. I just feel like nothing wants to fire, and I feel like I'm moving so slowly coming off the box. It's a real issue for me, but I do know that this is going to have a pretty direct carryover to my back squat. It's certainly going to make it easier for me to keep position. As you can see on these, I'm not sitting back on the box at all. I'm trying to just keep that same position when I'm resting on the box. I'm basically using it as a type of paused back squat. I'm not really using the box to relax my hips. Instead, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to again use it as a sort of pause squat with a forced isometric at the bottom. I'm trying to stay as tight as possible. This is all footage from my deadlifting, which was done this morning, and what I want to do when I talk about this deadlifting footage is I want to try and talk about my experiences with it. I'm not going to do a ton of explaining because I'm actually for the first time having somebody do a portion of my training, and so I have a friend who I met online a while ago, and then got to meet in person at Raw Unity. I guess 5 weeks or so ago at this point, and so my friend Paul is going to be doing my deadlifting moving forward, and he is obviously a fantastic deadlifter. He's known for being the world record holder at 165 in the deadlift, which he broke actually at Raw Unity. But he also has this very cerebral approach to training, and a lot of his training philosophies seem to sync up with me. And I also think he understands my psychological approach to training and the aspects of my psyche that keep me sometimes or impede me from making progress. I have this crippling fear that if I'm not constantly training uh, at peak shape, or if I'm not constantly doing something that is absolutely taxing, that I'm going to take a step back. And oftentimes, I feel like what I really need is I need for somebody to handle my training and let me know that yes, it is okay for me to pull 325 for 5 sets of 8 off of an inch and a half deadlift deficit, and my deadlift isn't going to regress and regress and regress. And actually, being able to do this work without second guessing myself is probably going to be what's going to allow me to make progress. So I am, just to explain what I'm doing, I am pulling off of an inch and a half deficit. I'm pulling 325 for 5 sets of 8. I was given the option of anything from 300 to 325, and I was given the choice to auto-regulate based on how I felt. I started with 325, and I ended up staying with it because even though they felt pretty hard, they felt universally difficult, there really wasn't any slowdown over the course of the sets. I felt like I was recovering fine between sets. I feel terribly out of shape, but that's kind of to be expected considering I haven't done any serious deadlifting. I haven't really done a serious deadlift training session in about the last 7 weeks. So, of course, it's going to be a struggle to start with. But I felt like over the course of my sets, my bar speed got better. My strength curve is totally out of whack right now. The speed at the top is obviously better than the speed off the floor, and that's very strange for me. That usually doesn't work that way. It just feels terrible breaking it off the floor. But that's good because now I can start to build off of this, and the bar speed will come back. I am going to be training my deadlift twice a week. That's our plan, and that's our protocol, so I'm looking forward to that. Overall, they did certainly feel weaker than they have when I've been training my deadlift regularly, but again, that's to be expected. My back flared up pretty good on me over the course of that deadlift session, but I'm just going to ice it very aggressively and see how I feel on Sunday. And if eventually I have to take a step back, then so be it. But my plan going forward is just to treat it very aggressively and see if I can work through it, because at this point, I've got a diagnosis. I know it's nothing serious. These things happen. I don't want for something to linger for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I feel like if I can treat it and if I can make sure that it's constantly making progress, it really wasn't bothering me at all going into that session, then I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with it. I did some banded hip thrusts, and really, I didn't film all of these. I only posted 3 sets, and I filmed a couple more. I think I did 4 work sets with this setup, but it took me a few sets to really get a sense for how the movement should be performed. I still don't feel like I'm getting full hip extension at the top. I'm not sure if I should hold for a longer isometric at the top. So I kind of have to figure that out. I tried it with my feet a little bit more elevated. I tried different box heights for the brace against my shoulders, and I messed around with different setups, and it felt good. It felt really loaded onto my hamstrings, and then secondarily loaded onto my glutes, and both muscle groups were pretty fatigued by the end of all of that work. I tried to do a few. They're not necessarily forced reps, but I tried to do a few reps at the end with a very short rest in between, just to try and inflate the sets as much as possible. I then after that ended up doing a bunch of sets. I did 4 sets, and you're not going to see 4 sets, but I did 4 sets with 2 mini bands, and this was just these are standing static abs. They're standing crunches, and really my focus here is on trying to keep my back arched, trying to push out against almost like an invisible belt as hard as possible. And I did a couple sets in which I just went down, and then I did a couple sets in which I went to the sides and tried to engage my obliques a little bit more. I felt pretty good with these. I used to do them a lot, and it took me a long time to learn how to do them, how to engage my abdominals. I'm still not sure if I'm doing them exactly as Paul wants me to do them, but that's why I'm taking video of everything. I'm trying to get the most out of my assistant's work as possible, and every rep of every set that I'm doing right now, I'm trying to take very seriously, because it will show up when I do the main movement stuff if I don't do this, if I don't do everything to the best of my ability, then it's obviously not going to carry over like it should. But overall, I felt okay with those. I haven't done a lot of heavy core work in a long time, and I'm starting to do it again. I feel like it'll help my squat. I feel like it'll help my deadlift, and so standing ab work is not something that I'm accustomed to, but I'm working on it again, and it's slowly starting to come back, and it's starting to feel a little bit better. After that, I did some side bends. I haven't done side bends in like, this has probably been at least 5 years since I've done a side bend. Now, I've done a bunch of overhead side bends, the Saxon variety, and I do those because sometime a long time ago, somebody told me, don't do regular side bends. The emphasis on your oblique isn't great just because of the mechanics of the lift. You're better off doing a Saxon side bend. And the Saxons are certainly harder. But I actually felt pretty good doing these. I only worked up to like 75 pounds, and I did 75 pounds for 3 sets of 15 each side. And that was pretty easy. When I'm not in a section of the gym that has dumbbells that only go up to 75 pounds, I'll work up with it heavier. I think the plan is for me to get up over 100 and to be able to do that and sustain it for sets. And I feel like I'll certainly be capable of doing that. These I think look pretty good and felt pretty good. And again, I'm just trying to focus on addressing technique, making these strict, but also really hammering the weight. And I'll be doing this for a while, so I'm going to keep filming the assistant stuff and keep seeing how it feels. Anyway, keep checking in. More videos for you soon.